Hello, everybody, and welcome to FIDE Candidates 2020 coverage, Res Day coverage, I should say. I'm International Master Levy Rozman. I'm joined today by Dutch phenom superstar Roeland Pruijssers. How did I do?
Well, you caught me a bit off guard with the phenom there, but the pronunciation was pretty good. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. You have my approval there. Definitely.
fantastic. We were joking, guys, before we went live about proper pronunciation. I challenged Roland. I told him that I would be able to accomplish it, but it's the Res Day, so of the most controversial and interesting chess tournament in my recent memory. I don't know for you. Before we jump into the games, and today we're going to be looking at 5 of the decisive 12 games that have been played so far. Roland, let me ask you this: do you think this tournament should have happened, or do you think it should have been postponed?
Yeah, that discussion. Yeah, yeah. On my stream, I also had a lot of questions about that, and yeah, well, it's something that I cannot really judge, but my opinion on what I've heard and what I've seen is that it's okay that the tournament continued because there aren't really a lot of people in the same room. If there are a lot of people in the same room, like for example with concerts or with the Grenke tournament that could have happened, then it's understandable that gets cancelled. But with 8 participants and their coaches only, more or less, it should be fine. I think the risk of spreading coronavirus is thereby not that great, and therefore I think it should continue. But okay, of course, I'm not an expert, but from what I've heard and what I've seen, I think it's okay that it continued.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a fair point. It's very, yeah, because it's very easy as an outsider to just say, well, just cancel the entire thing, tear it down, and just from the tournament continuing overall, it definitely created some hot takes, like this tournament's only going on because it's being held where it's being held. If the candidates were being held in Europe, then obviously they would have been called off already, or in the United States, for example, in one of the big cities. But what are your first impressions? Going into the kind of the first Res Day, how are you enjoying things so far? I'm pretty sure your talking point is going to be very similar to mine. I'm loving it. I think the games have been extremely exciting. I can't think of one game even that was just complete peace. If you know what I mean. Just there's been
Yeah,
battles every game.
I totally agree. So far, there have been a lot of surprising factors. Most notably, in my opinion, Wang Hao, which of course we're going to address in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's a surprising tournament for me. And I think everybody is playing a very high level chess. I can't say that anybody is not owning up to their level, except for, of course, Ding Liren, who hasn't got the best start. And of course, we're getting into that also in a bit. But yeah, overall, just a very good tournament with good high level chess. And yeah, I'm also liking the game so far. As you've mentioned, I also don't think that any game was particularly boring. Every game had something interesting in it. So yeah, definitely a good tournament to watch. So yeah.
Hopefully to play in also. I guess it's
No, that would be way too. Yeah, I'm not nowhere near their level, so that would be way too. You're way too nice for me, Levy.
well, I love when I'm streaming some completely meaningless blitz chess on my channel, and one of my viewers is like, why didn't you make it to that tournament? Someone who doesn't quite know the full process. I'm sitting there like, yeah, maybe next year, maybe next cycle, I'll make it. I'll make it to the candidates. They should have a candidates for international masters. They should have
Yeah.
world champion of international masters.
Oh, why not? Yeah.
Why don't we let's jump into the games? Yeah, for those of you that don't know, or maybe didn't have a chance to watch in depth some of the first few rounds, obviously, like Roland said, like Ding Liren was the big second question mark of the tournament, and what I mean by that is everyone's first question mark was, is Fabiano going to win again? At least it was for me. He won last time he played Magnus. He's 28-40. He's astronomically higher than the other chess players in the tournament. And he's done well so far. But was Ding Liren going to do well, given everything he had to go through thus far with getting there early? The question of whether he even was going to arrive in Russia. And then round one, he sits down to play Wang Hao, who I don't. Did you hear some of my comments about what I thought of Wang Hao making the tournament? I don't know if you do. You remember anything I said?
Uh, no. So what were you saying then?
When Wang Hao qualified through the Grand Swiss, I was disappointed. I thought that he was just not at the level of the others. He didn't have the team. He didn't have anything. I just thought that he was going to finish like a very boring -2 or something, and I have been so wrong thus far.
Well, do you know what his rating is at the moment?
At the exact moment, no,
Not
27-40. And
it's about 27-40. Yeah, 27-50, even 27-60 even got at some point.
mhm.
But yeah, it's an interesting point there. I think Wang Hao has been, well, one of the interesting fun facts is actually that Wang Hao is the only one who has a positive score against everyone in this tournament. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. That's to be expected at this point. So many surprises about Wang Hao.
I like that. Yeah. So yeah, it surprised me as well. Wang Hao more or less came through the candidates through a back door, I would say. But still, I think he's an underestimated player. And on my stream, I actually also mentioned that he was. I've always wondered why he wasn't a top 10 player because he has beaten almost everybody in the top level chess, I think,
Mhm.
and has won also a lot of tournaments. I think he has got a real winner mentality, and therefore I do think that okay, of course there are others that are maybe through the past years have got more. How do you say? Yeah, people would have more liked to see other people than Wang Hao in the candidates. Let me put it that way. But I think Wang Hao is a very decent choice. He has beaten everybody, as I said, and he can win tournaments. So that makes him a winner, and therefore I like to see him in the candidates tournament here.
Yeah, he's shown some really exciting chess thus far. Some really also interesting openings, which is actually my favorite part about watching all these top level games. And as we jump in, Ding Liren opts for an English. The first round saw 3 Englishes. Really throughout this tournament, we've seen a lot of movement towards C4.
Yeah,
Um,
what do you think that is?
Theory avoidance. That's probably, well, you read. I don't know if you read the book Game Changer about Alpha Zero, but I found it a very interesting point in that book that said that right now the players with black, they need to be very very good at a select few systems, select few openings, and then with white you just need to be unpredictable. You need to just play everything, not always even searching for an advantage as much as an
Uh,
element of surprise and just getting a comfortable position. Um,
that's
but
good. Yeah.
this game was weird because it starts out with like the king the king's bishop fianchetto. It's not knight c3 knight f3. It's g3 bishop g2 English.
Hmm.
Um, and it very quickly with the c6 and not knight c6 becomes like an opening where black is trying to push for the center, and after knight f3, which attacks the e5 pawn,
Hmm.
this became like a Rui Lopez after e4, kind of. you know
Sort of a reverse Rui Lopez, yeah.
yeah,
Only with the bishop on g2 already.
yeah.
Usually, Rui Lopez, the bishop is on e2 instead.
Hmm.
But yeah, usually the bishop is getting transferred like this anyway. So I think White does have something to speak for here. I mean, he does have a few tempi more than in the usual Rui Lopez.
Yeah, I think my friend summarized this game by saying Wang Hao won a Rui Lopez down 3 tempi, and I said, well, that definitely makes his accomplishment sound more exciting. But for club level players, these kind of closed positions, right, with
Mhm.
Eight pawns aside. Some people love them because they love the maneuvering game. I'm a much more, open position tactical player.
Mhm.
And I like this. I like a5 knight a6. uh, Trying to be a bit more deliberate. For me,
Mhm.
the game the game's first most confusing moment came right around here. Everything thus far kind of made sense. He plays a5, knight a6, has to go to c5 and trade. a4, bishop g4. Rook a3 was where it got weird. I didn't understand this move. I don't know if you did some deep analysis yourself, but
Mhm.
why did Ding Liren play rook a3 besides protecting the d3 pawn so that his queen could move?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that he wanted to protect the d3 pawn and not let the knight on f3 get pinned. So let's say instead of rook a3, you play something like queen c2 and then rook a d1 to protect the d3 pawn, then the knight on f3 would still get pinned. And yeah, you could play maybe something like h3 or g4 to get rid of this pin on f3.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're weakening your king side. So maybe this was just a very clever way to try and protect the d3 pawn. But I totally agree, it does not look really natural. And yeah, I'm also not 100% sure what the rook is doing on a3 besides protecting these two pawns on a4 and d3. So yeah, I totally agree there. For me, it was also the point where things got weird exactly, and I think Wang Hao just played very very safe after that. So after rook a3, he played the move knight d7, and after h3, he simply played the move bishop h5. And this maneuver you see very often, where the knight's going to e6 and the pawn gets to f6. It's something you see in a lot of Ruy Lopez's and also in a lot of Berlin openings. So very standard play from Wang Hao, I would say. So yeah, Ding keeps surprising us with these moves. Yeah, he played here the move Queen B1.
Yeah.
Was this maybe the second move where you thought maybe this was not usual, or this, or like in your words, maybe this was the second weird move of the game?
Yeah, for sure. I showed this game to a few students, not because I have students that are strong enough to understand complex, Ruy Lopez structures, but mainly because at this moment, teaching students about pawn play or piece play, when you can't go forward, sometimes you can go backwards. To take what is it, one step backwards, two step forward, something like that. You can reroute your pieces, and you've got full control over the center. So if you're able to secure that square for the knight, you'll be very happy. And in a closed position, you can maneuver even 4 times to get the knight to d4. Sometimes you might even take this
Yeah.
down so that you get this here.
Mhm.
I was really really confused by Ding's play here because he played queen b1. A few moves later, he played queen back to d1, took on f3, played queen f5, and then took the queen. It's like, why do you play 5 moves with a piece and then cease its existence entirely? Like, Wang
Well,
Hao didn't do anything complicated. He played b6,
mhm.
knight f8. Just felt like, oh, this is, this move is kind of like the first move that is unique in the sense that uh, Ding offers what looks to be an advantageous trade of bishops because Wang Hao's got a bunch of pawns on dark squares. So if he trades off his light squared bishop and he leaves himself with this guy on c7, gonna be pretty passive, right? Uh, so in theory, it looks like what Ding Liren is doing makes sense, but you
Mhm.
kind of see very quickly that does White really feel the power of the knight versus the bishop? I don't know. White's pieces are also pretty, I don't know, uninspiring. Is that the right word? Like he has no obvious targets, does he?
Well, but he has a very easy plan as well from the white side. You could simply play knight c4 and then f4 at some good point. So I don't know. I don't think Ding's play was particularly bad or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was more or less all pretty normal. So I don't think that he went wrong. Although, yeah, you summarized it yourself actually, because in these close positions, you can take 4 or 5 moves to get your pieces to the right squares. And in this case, he just wanted to trade off the bishop on f3. And so now, indeed, black has a weird bishop on c7, and versus a technically correct, better bishop on b2, although it's looking at e5 and not particularly doing anything more than this bishop on c7.
Yep.
But still, it's very standard play what Ding is doing, and I think he now has some potential, for example, with the knight coming to nice white squares on c4 or d5. So yeah, it looks, the only thing that I thought was unconventional is still the rook on a3, but otherwise I think it's very normal play from Ding so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, and this is a very, in my opinion, an important note for for those watching. Analyzing these positions with the engine, right, is always, it's a tricky task, because from the beginning until about move 35, it's going to tell you it's equal. It's just going to balance somewhere in between, plus 0.2, plus 1 point, plus 0.15, plus 0.3. And it always likes white's position maybe a little bit. Maybe it'll like black's position at some moment. It always says like, oh, slightly better position. But one point that you brought up, which is very important, we get to around here, and this is kind of the critical position.
So queens got traded on g6. White tried to move queen f5 and then queen takes g6, where the queens got traded.
Yep.
Right around here. And now knight c4, king f7. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, but this now we're getting to the critical point of the game, I would say.
Yes, I was gonna say this is, to me, for sure the critical point, and you break this into, once again, how can I maximize the effectiveness of my pieces, or if you're gonna play with your pawns, where are my pawn breaks? I did this position and a couple of other positions from the candidates with some of my students, and I said, in this particular case, where are white's pawn breaks? They thought for a little bit. They said, well, d4 is very bad. I was like, yes, correct. So I have to go to f4. And yes, so how can you accomplish f4? Bishop c1. Good, they found bishop c1. But as it ultimately turned out, playing for this pawn break, came back to hurt Ding Liren. Spoiler alert. Sorry, guys. But if he doesn't play for f4, is there anything white can do in this position? I don't think so, right? He just doesn't have anything.
Yeah, well, it's tough. I mean, in this position, you could maneuver around. Tough word to say. Maneuver around for a very long time. One of the plans that you could think of maybe in the long term is to play something like g4. For example, after knight e3, usually the knight goes to e7 to protect these squares from the knight on e3, and then you can start thinking about maybe advancing on the king side somehow. Of course, g4 in this case would not be good because of the knight square on f4 or the pawn on h4. But maybe in the long term there are ideas connected to that. But of course, top players look for all kinds of ways to continue the game. I'm absolutely 100% sure about that. But I agree. I don't think white has a lot here. One of the moves that I would consider was king f3 and king e2 to sort of get this rook out of the a3 square, because then maybe you could reroute it to d1, for example, or maybe if you want, you can maybe play f3, rook f2, and then rook a e1, rook a f1 to support the f4 break even more. Stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. I think the position is more or less equal without either playing having any chance to continue here because all pawn breaks. I mean, if black is going for an f5 at some point, then that also has a lot of drawbacks. I mean, white could take, not really without any problem. Not without any problem. Was that correct English? I don't know.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And I analyzed that. I was also interested in this position, and I analyzed if black could maybe try to play for a win with king e6 and f5. It turns out that after, let's say, you play king f3, king e6, king e2, and now f5, that it's actually not that great to play f5, because white can take, play f3, and in the long run, a move like g4 becomes possible. You can now place your knight, for example, to e4. The bishop can be rerouted to e3, and at some point you have a nice break connected with g4 at some point. So Yeah, to summarize this whole monologue, I think that you're right. I think that both players couldn't really progress in this position. So yeah, bishop c1 with the idea of f4 is the critical moment, is the critical point idea in this position. But yeah, as you said, it backfired. So
And I'm not even fully sure what was overlooked, right? It's when these guys get into positions, they either just don't see a move in the sense that they might have seen it, but just didn't do a whole lot of calculating because they thought they had a very easy response, or in move 5 or 6 of their calculation, they realized that I missed the resource that my opponent has, or I misevaluated the position, and now I've got to kind of damage control, because white can, as you said, maneuver the king to e2 and kind of optimize and make sure that all the pieces are on their best squares. Ding Liren obviously thought that the king belonged on g2 and not e2 before he went for f4, and he probably thought that, you know, the longer he waits, the more time I don't know, more time Black gets to consolidate. Maybe Black can put some pressure. Black can play for f5 himself, as you said. So bishop c1, and now a kind of a funny moment. Like, instead of taking with the pawn, which you just probably can't do.
yeah, because of
h4.
h4, yeah.
But here it's like you can, you know, you actually, because this doesn't work since the b6 pawn.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, yeah. Also, keep in mind that they're close to time trouble in this position. I mean, I think that Ding had about 20 minutes, but he was around this point. I think he was slowly getting lower and lower on time. But yeah, I think f4 he had enough time, I think, to consider if it was good or bad. So I think that you are right. I think he just missed a few things here. And I think that, okay, first of all, after f4, e takes f4 has to be played more or less. Otherwise, white can expand on the king side, for example, once again with f5 and g4. So taking is critical. And after bishop takes, which has to be played, because as you said, after g takes f4, the pawn hangs on h4. So bishop takes, and now I liked how Wang decided to just go for this. Just knight takes f4, g takes f4, and the very fanatical. Usually, when you break in the center, there is a point where you can, I'm not sure once again if this is correct English, but can be broken back, and that's the move f5 here. And I'm pretty sure that he saw the move f5. I mean, it's, as I said, it's a very fanatical idea that when you break in the center, moves like f5 are very normal to encounter, even if it costs a pawn. Because if you take like this, it's not really a problem, because the king can simply collect the pawn, and then you have a big weakness on f4 at some point. I think what he missed was Ding Liren played here to move e5. I think what he missed was to move rook e6. I think he missed the idea of rook g6 and rook g4.
Yeah.
That was really. I'm pretty sure that was the move that Ding missed. I mean, the other moves that were played and that you had to consider, I think Ding would have definitely found those. I think this was the move that he did not consider before playing f4.
Right. Yeah. And I remember doing a little bit of analysis here, and actually the correct defensive scheme is really, it's extremely difficult to find. This maneuver is extremely strong, not to mention that in the future, as we see with the next few moves, that there's this idea always that after you win the h4 pawn, which is how the game was ultimately decided, sacrificing the exchange on g4 to hold the position, which is really nice. There's rook d1, bishop d8, rook a2, and actually here already I remember that this was Ding Liren's idea, that if you take, I'm gonna go for this, but you can actually do this whole idea now.
Yeah, you can still do it.
Yeah,
yes.
which
Yes.
I guess, you know, when a winning opportunity presents itself out of nowhere, Wang Hao, I'm sure he saw this, but he was like, I don't know, maybe I don't want to take the risk, right? It's kind of, I don't know.
Isn't it? Sorry to interrupt you there. Isn't it slightly different though? Because in the game, Black managed to take back with the f pawn on g4, right? And so if you take now and now take with the f pawn, then you still have the problem with the h5 pawn. So it's slightly different than in the game, where in the game after what was it again? After rook g4, black managed to take back with the f. So
Well,
after
the
I'm guessing maybe you want to take back with the h pawn then.
yes, h pawn and then g5 is just winning for black. So
Anyway, okay, yeah, that makes.
And the threat is to take on f4, give this check, take this pawn, and then, you know, relative value of the pieces. Yes, a bishop is worth 3 and a rook is worth 5, but bishop supported by 2 pawns is not worth 5. It's might be worth 6 points. It's so strong, cutting off all of the circulation and then the connected pass pawns. But did you know that right here when Wang Hao tried to repeat to make the time control that he blundered?
Yes, I know that. Yes.
Yes, very, very nice moment here. Instead of passive defense, there's this amazing move, guys. I don't know if you've seen this, but d4 exclam.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to see.
Yeah, it's so hard to see. Well, I think the hardest thing to see here is that rook d4 is actually a bit simple because it's, you know, it's just takes and knight c2, and there's no convenient way to defend d4. Because if you play king d5, which is extremely natural, then there is knight takes d4. You don't actually defend the pawn because of this.
I know that Ding Liren was here in time trouble, so I'm pretty sure that he might actually have missed knight takes d4 in this position. It's something that I would not easily see in games like this. So
yeah, it's because it's the last thing you think of. I know for myself, this is the first thing I think of. How can I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's knight takes d4, and also you have to. The bishop is constantly attacking the h4 pawn. So if you take on d4, then you also have to realize, first of all, it cannot be taken, but second of all, it's also attacking the pawn on f5. So that means that if you take here, knight takes f5, you have got your pawn back once again.
Yeah. This is already getting close to better for white, actually, because of the the nature of the position. I thought the more beautiful variation was after cd4. So now of course the threat is to take the knight, and as well to take this and go rook g3. If you play so if you play knight c2 d3, you don't have knight d4. So this is just losing.
Yes.
But you have the incredible move, which probably this is what he missed, rook c2.
Yeah. Yeah, that could also be it, yeah.
With the barbecue skewer right here with the rooks, and there's no way to defend everything. Rook c2, by the way, rook c2, this is winning for white. This is actually not even equal. This is just winning for white.
I know, yeah. I did the analysis as well.
Yeah, so it's incredible. It's interesting from a psychological perspective. You feel the game slipping through your fingers, and this is move 40. I mean, d4 is literally the possibility to play this move is move 40. So you're stuck in time trouble, thinking, do I go for it, or do I just do I just keep it solid and make get my extra what is it 30 minutes, and then try to just labor through defensively. He did the wrong thing. He went for the wrong thing. I don't know. I always like predicting what the players miss. Do you think he missed rook c2? Is this the variation he missed?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he missed knight takes d4 in the other variation.
Okay, so you think...
But maybe he did not even consider d4 from a practical standpoint as well. Like he was, his opponent was trying to to get to move 40, that's clear. And of course, white would be happy with a draw in this position. So why not just repeat? From a practical standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. So yeah.
And then, unfortunately, after bishop h4, rook g2, rook g4 is a very, very big problem. I'll even flip this back to Wang Hao's perspective. This is kind of a important lesson just in general. Whenever rooks are facing each other on an open file, you know, just like in a showdown of cowboys, you don't want to be the first to back down. You don't want to be the guy to give the path. So not that I have a
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have a lot of experience being a cowboy, but this is not what black wants, to allow this rook full control of the file. So sometimes you have moves where you can move the rook forward to a point, and in this case, just after a few more moves, taking the rook is unfortunately just losing.
Yeah.
And rather than even playing this position,
Mm-hmm.
Ding Liren just resigned, but for good reason. I mean, he has nothing. Quite
Really.
literally.
Yeah. Actually, I also wanted to stress that these weaknesses, these were always in the position, and now there was also a weak pawn on h4, and so white had a lot of weaknesses to take care of, and in that position, it was just too much to handle. I mean, if white could somehow have less, for example, if white had control over the g file at some point, then it would have been maybe holdable, still questionable, I would say. But yeah, it's just so hard to defend such a position, and I think that actually this position is practically already lost. It's
Yeah.
just too hard to defend. But of course, yeah, it was very nice if we moved the game a little bit further. That rook g4, the old world champion Petrosian would have been proud of this move.
The
He's very
exchange sack.
the exchange master, yeah, the exchange sack master.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, very thematical. I think a lot of people maybe would not consider rook g4, but on high level, a move like that is very thematical. Very nice thematical exchange sacrifice.
It's also important to note that without rook g4, black is not winning, right? It's probably very likely that rook g2 will hold, so you actually have to sacrifice the exchange, which for us, you know, elite titled players, not to group us together. I know you've got a slightly different title, but
You can. We're both participants in Title Tuesday, right?
oh, I don't play that thing. I don't. That thing will make me not like chess.
Aw.
So, uh, yeah, I'm always afraid of participating, and that's why I do commentary. You know, people are like, "Why don't you play?" I'm like, "Come on." Um, but the other exciting game of round one, guys, was turn our attention now to Anish Giri. Oh, small spoiler alert to Anish Giri versus Ian Nepomniachtchi.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how difficult it was to spell Jan's name when we were doing the preparation for this match, for this show. I'm talking like I'm actually playing. Let's let's move through the opening at relatively quick speed. Just, you know, we only have an hour and a half, and we have to get through the next 4 games. Although the opening is super exciting. It starts out with a symmetrical English, which is terribly boring, but then a quick d4 by white. And whenever d4 happens, you just don't know how black is going to set up. In my experience, you know, Roland, I don't know about you, but people generally go for like a dragon style. And then I go for e4, and it's like, you know, it's like just a dragon position with Maraxi bind. But this is like some computer stuff now with e6, queen b6. And you know, knight b5, knight e5. I don't know how well versed are you in the theory here, because I'll tell you right now, I don't know where we are.
I also don't know exactly where the novelty was, but I've seen the knight e5. I've seen the queen b6 moves before, and I also know that knight fg4 is very common in these type of positions. But yeah, you don't. I know Anish. Anish is of course a countryman of mine. I don't know him on a personal level, but I have played against him a few times, and I know that he's always. Yeah, he doesn't go for positions like this if he has not prepared. It's very scary to play with a weak f2 pawn. It's very scary. Actually, I don't think he also likes to give up the bishop pair. So with a bishop playing with a bishop on f4 is also kind of scary for him, because that means that he might has to give it up at some point. But yeah, he definitely, this is a very sharp line, and he must have prepared this opening. I'm 100% sure of that.
I think his preparation lasted all the way here, somewhere around, I believe, rook c1, and I just saw that get actually verified in the chat, which is funny. rook c1 is prep, so you cannot take the b2 pawn because of queen b3. And I remember looking at this game myself and just looking at the timestamps of the moves. It always cracks me up, and we'll see this later with Ding Liren versus Fabiano. One guy's playing all the moves in 20 seconds, the other guy's taking 8 minutes per move. And I'll tell you, that sucks. Like, it really sucks to be the guy that's in the prep. Because you're balancing a very fine line between, oh my god, I need to make sure I play all the right moves, and oh my god, I need to make sure that I get out of my opponent's preparation. Because maybe as you play all the right moves, they've prepared all that. If you play a move that's a little suboptimal, maybe they don't remember that move because it's not the top engine line, right? And you get them to think. So this game was absolute chaos. b3, the sacrifice of the piece, rook a3 comes in, pinning the knight, bishop e5, f6.
So hard to figure out what exactly is going on in these positions. I did not make my hands dirty on that. I was thinking that to let the engine run for 6 days and then let the computer decide what was going on, But yeah, do you know anything about this? Did you let the computer run for a while, maybe?
One fun thing that I did right around here, I mean, it was like a move order thing for me. I took, and then I asked my students, like in this position, I said, come up with 5 possible moves for white that don't look bad. and they looked at queen d2, queen b1, none of them picked g5, which is what Anish played. I think up to this point, Anish was still in his preparation, by the way, because I think Anish played this move relatively quickly, and the idea is to, of course, maximize the effectiveness of the dark squared bishop and also threaten bishop h5. So queen b1 is just, I mean, what an unbelievable move. This is definitely better than Ding Liren's queen b1. Shows you what kind of a triangle is this? Is this a...
Yeah, it's
isosceles. I think it's 2 sides are the same, 2 angles are the same. Or
that might... No, that's not... Oh yeah, 2 sides are the same. Yeah, that's
okay. I'm sorry. Geometry was a very long time ago, and
1, 2, 4, 5.
This is the high level commentary that folks tune into. Queen b1 and what kind of triangle do we have?
What you're saying, yeah, all 3 sides are the same. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's focus on chess though. Yeah, the fun stuff, the more fun stuff. Yeah? All right. Queen b1. So you're saying queen b1 was also still theory, still for him at least, still analysis?
I don't quite remember. Yeah, I think right around here he was actually starting to think on his own, and I can maybe go verify that. But this is the kind of game you can truly spend 5 minutes, per move deep diving the position. But no, so G5 was actually the first move where Anish spent a lot of time. He spent 18 minutes, which is, it's kind of funny. He blitzes preparation till move 19, and for the next 5 moves combined, he takes 1 hour. So 18 minutes, 3 minutes, 15 minutes, 7 minutes, 23 minutes. And then he has a worse position. So that's, you gave yourself a little bit of chaos, and you were not even able to handle it in the best way. Here, I love this move by black, even though I'm not sure it was even the best, but b5, overloading the c4 pawn, giving it choices. 2 free pawns it can be taken. And neither one of them is all that appealing. If you take this way, you allow c2, which is obviously losing. And if you take this way, you still allow c2, and it looks lost, but here there is bishop h5, king e7, queen a3, queen d6, queen a7.
Oh, queen a7, okay, yeah.
Bishop d7, and then king g2.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, it's an incredible position with lots of different resources, of course, yeah. So I think this happens to Anish actually a few times. I've seen it before when he was playing against MVL, I think. No, this is the first MVL. Wait, he was playing someone in the previous candidates, and he was also playing, yeah, like 20 moves, blitzing out his preparation. But then suddenly, when he was out of his preparation, he had to think on his own, and suddenly it was still a complicated, messy position, and he did not know what the preparation was saying anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then he started to struggle. I've seen him lose. There was another game against MVL. I'm not sure exactly where that was played, but that was exactly the same thing. He had a wonderful position according to the computer out of move 15 in a complicated Najdorf position.
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Move, yeah. Then MVL played the sixth move that the computer was giving, and suddenly Anish did not know what to do. He made a mistake, and he eventually lost the game, even though the position that he had was supposed to be +4 on the evaluation bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Sometimes maybe it's a trend with Anish. Maybe deep preparation doesn't suit him or something. I don't know. Maybe it's something that I'll have to ask him. I'm not sure that he will tell me, but I'm gonna try.
No, it definitely makes sense. It feels like he creates positions. There's different levels of prep, right? There's prep where it looks like your opponent is just dead lost. You know, they're under huge pressure. You sacrifice material, and a lot of moves that they have are holding. One of the moves that, you know, one of the engine lines is winning for them if they find it, if they go kind of just on that path. But a lot of options also lose. But it doesn't feel like Anish creates those kinds of positions. He creates just chaos, right? This position against Jan, what is this? Right? Like, this is not a position where Jan is balancing the line between winning and losing. It's just chaos. It's a completely chaotic position. And it's incredibly difficult to navigate chaos, right? Because we see Anish in this position right around here, and he finds this nice move e4. He finds this very interesting idea rook h4. I think here it was still in the balance, but it's just so weird, right? Like this position, and then he immediately blunders. He blunders 2 moves in a row. He blunders king g7 and pins himself, and then he blunders just a simple attacking move, and his position falls apart. Actually,
Is queen b3 a blunder?
yeah. I think it's so here you have to sack the queen. I don't know what he missed, because I think here there was a very small difference. I remember looking. You have to play queen b4, because after rook b8, I think you can play bishop b5. But again, even this is like,
I was looking at that actually. With I was analyzing this on my stream as well.
mm-hmm.
And I still think that black is winning. Let me try to figure out exactly how. I thought it was.
Well, it's probably something.
I thought it was bishop d5.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
With the idea that if you move the rook, let's say here, then you've got rook takes b5, queen
Yeah.
5, bishop c4, with a yeah. Let's just put it on the board. Actually, bishop c4. You win the queen. So the rook has to move. If you move to g4, then the king can simply go. The rook is awkward, and you can play something like queen c1 in the near future. This is a very tough position to play, by the way. I'm not sure exactly how this continues if you play a move like a4, for example, now. I'm actually guessing that after queen c1, you cannot play queen e1 because of bishop g2. King takes, then you lose the queen. And if king e2, then bishop f3, losing material. All kinds of tricks like this are in the position. And I remember also analyzing what happens if you played a very clever rook e2. Because after rook e2, you have rook takes b5, queen takes b5, bishop c4, but it's not with check anymore, and therefore it doesn't really bring anything to black. But here you have queen b7, I remember.
Yeah.
And the point is that if you play a4, that here you've got the very nice bishop c4 with the idea to play queen h1.
Queen h1 mate.
Yeah.
Wow. So we have
yeah.
We have folks in chat. Well, we haven't actually refuted your bishop d5 idea. And, you know, I can, of course, boot up the engine and we can have an engine battle. But somebody was also saying, can you play queen c1 before you play bishop d5? Well, you guys got to realize queen c1, you can just come back with a rook, guys. So And something like this just doesn't work because I'm not gonna take you with the bishop and hang my queen. And by the way, I can actually do that because your queen is hanging. So
I think maybe their point was bishop h3, but the rook on e1 is protected by the queen on b4. So
that's important. Yes, and
g1 even.
Although, yeah, I mean, I can play king g1, but I can also maybe even play king e2. Like, my king is safe.
If you feel adventure.
Yeah, if I feel really brave, you know, but of course I can just play king g1. I don't see any immediate loss with king e2. But like, you know, this all started because Anish took a pawn and pinned himself. I don't know what he missed. I guess he missed the king move.
Yeah, I think that, well, I was also surprised that this pin was that good for black. I was also thinking like, okay, Anish is stabilizing. He did not really get anything in this game, so he's going to make a draw. But then after king g7, suddenly it turns out that this pin is going to win black the game, more or less. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that.
Right, and
most of you guys already know probably, but yeah, Anish managed to lose this game. And that happened after this because now he had to give a queen against a rook and a bishop, and that turned out to be fatal for him.
Yeah, fun question to ask is like, what is black's biggest asset in this position? The queen. Yes, of course, but it's the pawns. I mean, if he's unable to make any progress with his pawns,
that's a good point. Yeah, let's say this pawn was on b4. Then the position would have suddenly been holdable.
Yep. And it's still with I guess a degree of a challenge, but much more holdable. Because when your pawns are on the same side of the board and you can't really push the a-pawn kind of has to stay back to guard the bishop, so it has kind of a fortress square. Otherwise, if it goes to a4, you destabilize everything. You are never going to make a queen.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, short of your opponent being a complete degenerate, it's not going to happen. It takes a very long time, and in the process, your bishop has nowhere safe to stand. Your rook will not find a way to be guarded. You can't keep everything protected, and good maneuvering here by Jan. This is like a perfect Jan position. He can just instigate relentlessly, like queen f3 and e4, e3 here. This was a fun moment. This h4 and f5 and e3 idea, just using all the pawns to win the bishop. Now, you said you did some work here.
I did some work on this endgame, yeah, because a lot of people were arguing, doesn't white simply have a fortress now on this ending? So yeah, complicated stuff. We skipped through a few things, of course, but this was the critical position in the whole game, I would say. Is this endgame a draw or is it winning? And I think that it's winning for black. I checked also the table base, and actually I did it also with my chat. I see someone in the chat actually that was there. Hello, Tayyip. Thank you as well. So you have rook g3 and rook e3. Those are the moves that white constantly wants to play. But what's also important, you don't want to be in zugzwang with white. For example, black is first going to collect the h4 pawn, and that's more or less what he did. So king f1, queen d1, king g2, queen g4, rook g3. And this is the critical point of this endgame, because black could have taken on h4 here, but that is a draw. And okay, fun quiz question. Why do you think that is, Levy?
Oh, me? Oh, I thought we were just giving it to the chat. I remember I also looked if there's a moment where losing the h-pawn and you can still draw the game. I honestly can't even begin to conjure up the difference of why this particular position would be a draw. Is it because of the king's positioning?
Yeah, you were right. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. It's not that hard. Well, of course it is hard, but yeah, you found it, so very good. Yeah, king f1, king e2, and suddenly white does have a fortress. That is more or less the point. If the king is on e1 or e2, then black cannot advance. And we will see that if you compare that to how the game went. Eventually, black won the h-pawn, but the king had to stay on g1. So queen d5 is played, king g1, king f6. Notice how the king can never come to e2 or e1. Rook g3, queen d1, king f5 here, rook g5, king f4. Rook g3, queen b5. So the problem is, how is black going to collect the h-pawn? And this was a point that Naroditsky, Anand, and the other commentators from Chess.com were a bit wondering about, because Anish gave this pawn quite quickly away, it seems, and they were saying that maybe white could have held on to this pawn a little bit longer, because yeah, this is the first thing that black has to get rid of in this position. So after king f1, black played queen d2, king g2, queen d1, rook e3, just normal stuff. And then he started to try and collect it like this with the king. So rook g3, king f6, rook h3, and now king g6. White gave away the h-pawn now with rook e3.
Queen b1's a really nice move. I don't mean to cut you off. I just, he plays this move. It's Zugzwang now, and he defends the pawn. So that, rook e3 is, which is an important moment. A lot of chat people probably, why do you move here of all the moves? But just to keep an eye on the pawn.
No, you're right. This was a good thing to mention, yeah. Also notice that after king g3, you have queen g1. And if king h2, then you have queen f1. These are the moves that create the Zugzwang in this position.
That's a very nice move, yeah. And then you're just winning the rook.
Oh, you're winning the rook, actually, here, yeah. Yeah, usually it's the Zugzwang position, but here, yeah, it's totally over, of course, if you win the rook. Okay, so yeah, to continue the story, after king takes h4, the king is still on g2, and black has won the pawn on h4. So how do you win this? Well, Nepomniachtchi played this absolutely perfectly. He just run his king towards the other side to d4, and then he played queen d3, and this is why you needed the king on e2 or on e1, because if you take now, e takes d3, the pawn is simply going to run. And so if the king was here, then he could have stopped that pawn with the move king d1. And queen d3 in that position is more or less the only way to try and play for a win here. So yeah, it was a very instructive endgame, and it put a real strain on my mind when I first started to analyze this endgame. So yeah.
Just real quick though, why resign? Is it losing? What is like the winning technique here? Maybe we just show this to the chat, because as the so New York is obviously everybody under soon probably shelter in place with all this coronavirus stuff, but which means that we probably will not be allowed to leave our house unless you're doing groceries or cleaning your clothes at the laundromat. But construction and the destruction of concrete outside of my window to prevent me from sanity still continues. So
yeah,
I don't know if you live next to a construction site, Roland. But
no, well, actually, my whole building is a construction site right now. So yeah, more or less. I've lived through. Yeah, okay, but let's focus on chess, shall we? Yeah, I think the white's going to be in Zugzwang once again. Yeah, with a king c3, king d2, and then king e2, and there's just no. Oh, wait. So yeah, as you mentioned, like this, and there's not much white can do about this.
It's an amazing endgame. Incredibly instructional.
Actually, I should also mention, let's just put it on the board. Let's say you put king c3 now, rook h3, king d2, rook g3, king d2, rook h3. Well, here it's already clear that you've got Zugzwang. If not, then you could have also played queen d4, but let's say you play rook h3. You can take king takes f2, and the pawn is going to run. So yeah.
Yep.
Very instructive. Yeah.
Very, very nice game. Yeah, big win for Nepo. It's his first candidates. And a lot of people always tout the fact that Nepo has had success in classical chess against Magnus Carlsen, except I think the most recent time that they played, Magnus was victorious. Magnus is, of course, a chaser of all records, and he definitely wants to, in all likelihood, clean that slate and fix the fix that blemish potentially on his chess resume. So, but Queen d3 really instructive. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is it a really nice demonstration of class when a player like Nepo does this and finds this Queen d3 idea, or is it expected of someone at that level?
Oof.
Or is it both? It could be both, I guess. But
that's a tough one. Well, you have to consider that these people do chess for a living, so they're doing this, of course, let's say 10 hours a day studying chess. So I think endgames like this, well, yeah, of course, it's very impressive for us who don't who don't do so much work, of course, in chess. And of course, these guys are really talented. So certain things that they understand, I could never understand.
Mm.
So to say that this is expected, that's something that I cannot decide. I'm just not at their level. So I think that, for example, if you have a discussion between Anish and Nepomniachtchi, and Nepom is saying afterwards against Anish, why didn't you know this endgame? I mean, why did you go for this? Then I would say, like, okay, it's he's got a fair point, but if I would say that, I don't have really any foot to stand on. So
That's fair. Fair.
but yeah, so I'm wondering though. I
Mm.
mean, Anish had to go for this ending. I believe. I don't think he had anything better after Black sacrificed those pawns. Yeah, because otherwise he would simply have been maybe gotten even worse material imbalance against him. But yeah, I'm just wondering, like, was it? I think Anish knew that this endgame was lost. I just think he had to go for this endgame anyway. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's fair. And chess fans around the world either love end games like this. They love games that are chaotic, and then uh, they have a brief moment of I guess peace in the middle where things look like they're about to figure themselves out, make a draw, and then back to chaos. Queen versus rook and bishop with pawns all over the board, followed by technically winning queen and pawn versus rook and two pawns endgame. And that was the only other decisive game in round one. Having said that, 50% of the games in round one were decisive, 2 out of 4. So that's very nice. We have not had a round yet of all draws or anything like that. And then round two, the first game that we'll look at. Let me just pull this up on our screen. Fabiano Caruana, arguably the most experienced, but definitely the most successful, I would say, player in this event. The only, well, I don't know. In the current format, the only person to compete for the world championship against Magnus Carlsen, 2840 rated, coming off of a dominant showing in Vike and Zev in the tournament in January. To me, Roland, I don't know about you, it's not even close that he and Magnus are far and away the two best classical players, I will say. Magnus, I say across the board, is the best. Fabi obviously does have this one criticism everyone always talks about, his rapid and blitz play, not being at the level of Mr. Carlsen. But in terms of classical, right, it's not even close how good he is in classical chess. So, and he's playing the guy who is the wild card, really. MVL is kind of the wild card right now with his making his way into this tournament. But what were your expectations of Alekseenko? How'd you think he would fare?
Well, he's still a 2700 player, and he did not qualify for no reason. He's a very strong player, an up and coming player, I would say. To say that he is in the top 8 of the world, I don't think that is the case, but I do think he's a very strong player and that he could do well potentially in such a tournament. I would say I wasn't considering him to be above 50%. That would have been my guess about him, because the other players are just so strong and also so experienced. I think, yeah. So Alekseenko, yeah, just another good Russian player, actually. Yeah, there are so many good Russian players, but now Alekseenko is there. So yeah, I think Alekseenko could surprise us, but to be in the first 3 rounds, he received a lot of heat. I would think everybody is considering him the weak link, I would say, in this tournament. And I think in round 3, we're not going to analyze that game, but in round 3, Nepomniachtchi was really pushing against Alekseenko with a French opening, and the French opening you don't ever see on high level play. So I definitely think that he has a target on his back in this tournament.
Absolutely. he in the first round against Grishuk, he was under some severe pressure. I mean, Grishuk had some dream position, and he ultimately, said in the press conference that he spent way too much time. He spent 25 minutes on a move he could have spent 25 seconds on, which is basically an entire summary of Grishuk's career. But as you said, the French by Nepo. I'm sure Nepo's played the French in the past, but it's not something that you're going to usually see at this level. Guy's 22. Listen, that's hours and hours and years, honestly, quite literally years of chess that he does not have yet in his experience. So these guys are going to throw things at him that he's never seen before. One of those things is, Fabi has made a big thing out of playing d4 in these candidates tournaments. He only played e4 against Magnus, right? Only. I mean, I'm talking the entire match. That shows his degree of comfort. But against these guys, he busts out Catalans, he busts out mainline d4s, and he played an f3 Nimso, which he actually said afterward that he has never played, ever. This is the first time he's ever played an f3 Nimso. What a place to do it. But it's to your point. He's playing it against Alekseenko. Will he play this against Grishuk? Probably not. But he plays it against Alekseenko. And, Alekseenko goes for this line where he does not take on c3. I like this line, actually, for black. I usually go back myself. I don't take on c3.
Okay, yeah, I've never seen this before. I always thought that, okay, d5 is one of the main lines, of course, but I thought that c5 was actually the more critical move. But I'm not. I don't play the Nimzo very often, so I'm not very familiar with the current theory about this. But yeah, I've never seen Bishop e7, so this is an enriching of my own theoretical knowledge in the Nimzo. So thank you.
There is, because when you take on c3, and even here, White has this very annoying system he can play where you basically take, and you bunker up. You play e3, bishop d3, knight e2, and you very slowly expand in the center with e4. That line is a little bit annoying. There's these just kind of annoying lines where White, despite playing seemingly scholastic, 500, 600 level moves with their pawns, actually comes up with a very nice strategy with a central majority D and E, because Black only has a D pawn and then makes progress. Black is able to lash out with moves like this. Personally, I like e5. I think e5 is a very fun move, and then you can...
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, I remember the e5 move. Yeah.
There's
White does get a space advantage then, but Black does have nice squares to play with. Dark squares mostly, yeah.
Right, exactly. I love that in the chat. Good time for Fabi to practice a new variation, because he doesn't have to play Alekseenko like he's a serious opponent. We get this kind of critical and crazy position, and I saw Anand here was saying that rather than playing bishop d6, if you start with bishop d6, you might run into knight b5 just going for the bishop pair. So if you play knight d7 and then bishop d6 and then knight b5, at least you can retreat the bishop back to b8, which is just so interesting that you can allow this. And this, to me, right around here was kind of the critical moment. Actually, according to theory, it's also the critical moment. Knight b5, which threatens a very natural, knight c7. Fabi mentioned here that there's two moves according to theory. One is rook b8, which is a funny looking move. You just allow knight c7, but it's not a fork. So, game can go knight c7, and then here there is this rook takes c2.
Even rook takes c2, huh?
And you can get this position with some some bishop g3. I think this is as far as I looked. It's not better for black or for white. It's obviously 0-0-0 according to the computer. But it's chaotic. I mean, black sacrifices an exchange, and
I thought actually instead of rook takes e2, you could also simply play the move rook e4 after knight c7.
Sorry.
Yeah, so rook b8, knight c7, and here rook e4. Yeah, I think that was also okay, because if you attack it, then you can even play a move like rook d4.
Oh wow!
It spins.
Oh wow! Rook d4.
I thought that rook e4 was also a move here, but I'm not 100% sure though.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, this position is so complex and concrete that there are a couple of lines that I'm sure are evaluated the same by the engine, but to a human, it's, you know, do I invest the exchange, or do I, you know, just kind of keep this dancing rook in the
Yeah.
center? But Fabi mentioned afterward, and yes, I do think that Alekseenko did go wrong here with rook e6. The idea, of course, being knight c7 is not a fork, because rook d6 hits the queen, and then you obviously have this problem. But Fabi does want to play this move anyway, so it seems very strange to leave this rook as a target with this
It's
pawn well protected.
it seems that it came down to one tempi, yeah. So black gave this rook e6 because white is going to play knight c7, and then the rook has to move to e4 anyway, and that tempi, yeah, more or less decided the game. I think it's
Yep.
incredible how top level games finish in that way, huh?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This g4 move, very spicy by Fabiano.
Hmm.
Looking to push the initiative, and you actually have to sacrifice, because if you just retreat here after bishop d3, you see the problem. The rook does not have any comfort whatsoever. You cannot play rook d4 at this point because the knight takes. And if you try to camp the rook out on e3, then after some simple moves, I think this is... Oh, I guess knight g5 doesn't trap it, but even something like this, very simply, I mean, black has no moves.
Yeah, maybe rook takes c4, but things are still pretty complicated, I would say. But I totally agree. Maybe queen d3 now, actually, with the idea rook e4, g5. But
Yeah, yeah, or even g5 and queen d3, just flipping the move order, I think is...
could also be, yeah. It looks very suspicious, and I'm pretty sure that the engine is really liking. Is actually saying that white should be winning. Also, the f7 pawn, yeah, as you've shown in this position, yeah.
Yeah, so, but of course, to, you know, to the fans watching at home, it still might not be so clear, you know. It still might be, well, black is pretty solid. Yes, white's got this knight, but you can always flip the logic. Well, white is overextended. What is white's threat? But if you really
Yeah.
look at it, black just does not have a lot of moves, and he's got a rook in the center that's the target. So Alekseenko went for this sacrifice, and after some simplifications, this was a fun position to me, because it's equal according to material, right? But it's, technically,
Well,
it's...
if the queens were traded, then this position I think would be okay for black, definitely,
Mhm.
especially the opposite colored bishops. But since the queens are on the board, black cannot really make use of these pawns because if you start advancing, then your king becomes unsafe, and unfortunately, you have to advance sometimes at some point from the black point, as Caruana has also shown us actually in the game. So he played queen h3, king g7, king h1, just trying to put more pressure on the black king with rook g1.
Mhm.
After 95, knight h4, just keeping the pressure on the king side over here. The rook is coming in at any second now. And after h5, rook g1. Yeah, the weaknesses. I mean, it's if these pawns, for example, if the king was on the other side, then maybe
Just teleport.
teleport the king all the way to b8, then maybe this position was okay. But since the king, yeah, is under such a heavy attack, and these pawns are merely defenders, not really attackers, then yeah, this position is simply lost for black.
I think that's a strong point, to reiterate, is that, you know, you said, and I remember, during, this is right around when I was tuning into the commentary, uh, during the broadcast. It was Alexandra and Daniel, and Alexandra said, so, you know, how would you evaluate a position where it's not, it's a piece for 3 pawns? And Daniel said, oh, you know, that's a great question. Then he answered the question, and he said, he wasn't like a politician, you know. It's a great question. Well, you know, this is what I'll do for our country. So it all depends how many, you know, how much attacking potential that you have. The more pieces that come off, the more the pawns will become useful. But since you can't actually move any of the pawns, uh, you keep the queens on the board and you try to use your piece majority in an advantageous way. How do you use your piece majority? You attack the king. That's right. I mean, you have more attackers than they have defenders. I think the fatal moment was h5. I remember this really destabilized the position, but it's hard to come up with a move. I mean,
Yeah, it's
This is
hard.
coming.
And White has a very simple plan: Rook G1 and Knight F5, indeed. So, and yeah,
I mean, you know, there's various ways to win here with white. I'm sure you already analyzed. You know, he could have taken on G6 immediately. Actually, there was like some really fancy computer line here with knight takes G6 and knight
mhm,
F4. Just too many threats.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is
Uh,
hopeless. And
it was already over. Yeah, actually, I think the critical.
mm-hmm.
I mentioned the king. Yeah, but it's actually the rook on c8. I mean, if the rook was maybe on h8, let's teleport it over there this
Yeah.
time. Then this position maybe would have been fine for black. But since let's put it this position on the board.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you want to move the queen towards the king side or something, but then a knight on d7 is attacked. So let's say play a move like this, then the knight on d7 is falling. Okay, so black played 95. Okay, white played knight h4. And here you actually want to, yeah, you want to teleport the rook over here. And if you play a move like queen g5, then suddenly there's a rook hanging on c8 once again. Well, you probably need to make a few more in between moves. I would say let's play rook g1 first and then maybe take on c8. But yeah, in any case, that is more or less my point. The queen cannot go anywhere. If it goes here, then the rook is attacked. So that is more or less the point that I'm trying to make here. It's just a very unfortunate position for black, since after queen h3, very nice move, by the way. Yeah, black is still uncoordinated. Knight b6 is not possible. Knight f6 is not possible because once again the rook on c8 will fall. Let's say like this. And queen takes c8. It's yeah, it's I would kind of say that this position is an unfortunate position for black because of the rook on c8 and knight on d7. Yeah.
There's just it almost seemed like Fabi made it look easy. I think of all the games that we've seen thus far, to me, I think this game was just the easiest. You know, he just got a pleasant position from the opening,
Mm-hmm.
and very quickly it turned bad. You know, just it wasn't much of a fight at all. Like some of these games are fights. It's not super clear if even the game we'll look at the end. You know, the Ding Liren Fabiano game
Mm-hmm.
was pretty chaotic for a while, and then ultimately it became clear that the Ding had stabilized and everything was fine. But here, it was
Mm-hmm.
not really chaotic at all. I don't know, maybe you disagree, but I can't really argue that like White, you know, did anything spectacular. He just played moves and won the game. I guess that's just how chess works. But
Great preparation as well. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, Bobby had definitely had this opening prepared better than Alekseenko. Maybe that's the biggest point of criticism there because such positions are very hard to judge if you don't know the end game, if you don't know the engine evaluation. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that was maybe the biggest advantage from Caruana in this game, that he knew that this was simply better for white. Well, in this position, I could also probably judge this was simply very good for white. But let's say in this position, yeah,
mm-hmm.
that black just lost a tempi with rook e6 and rook e4, and after rook c8, suddenly it turns out that after g4, black has to take on g4. It's something that yeah, of course, that Caruana could also figure out over the board. I don't think it's that complicated actually, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think you're simply right. This was an easy game for Caruana and not the best game of Alekseenko. Yeah, I think
Yeah. And
that's
our second decisive game of round number 2 was the very interesting MVL Ding Liren game. Uh, Kind of this Spanish anti-martial. I'm not extremely well versed in my anti-martials, but
mhm.
this is all this is all theory. This is why I like to put my knight on c3 and my bishop on c4. I just don't play the knight to f3. You know, I don't do this stuff. But this h3 move, one of the many anti-martials. I know that this is the kind of key position. Will black play d6 or d5? White can also play like d3, knight c3, right? There's a lot. a4 is trendy, I think. Maybe not in this position, but I think in this position.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, h3 is an old move. You don't see that very often nowadays. Yeah, I think Aronian or Carlsen was the first one to more or less popularize this a4 move in this position. d4 is a very old move that could also be played in this position. But yeah, h3 is a move that I haven't seen in like 10 years on top level or something like that. I'm not exactly sure why h3 has not been played, because after bishop b7 and now d3, I think d5 was still possible. I think that was more or less the reason why. Although d6, the move that Ding played, is of course very much okay as well. But
oh, I get it. I get it. The difference being that in the mainline Marshall, you've got the bishop here, but here you've got the bishop here, but it's still.
no, I remember now. Because after d3, I think black can get a good Breyer on the. Do you know the Breyer opening by any chance?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't play it for either side. I know it. Yeah, knight b the knight b8, knight d7. I mean, to the uninitiated, it just looks like black is
Yeah.
mindlessly
So
shuffling.
if you play something like c3, for example, then after knight b8, knight d7, a common maneuver in the Ruy Lopez, then white has to play d4 at some point anyway, and then you have lost a critical tempo in the opening, which is very pleasant for black, because the Breyer is still challenging. I would say for black, I'm not sure that black has objective equality there, but with a tempo up, black definitely has. So I think that was the reason why. So, but a3, I think, yeah, that is a move that you don't see also very often. But yeah, this is probably just a new development in this line. Yeah.
There
Uh,
was an anti like an anti-Spanish. I don't think it's with h3, but I might be wrong. I remember it got popularized recently. It's the setup with a3, knight c3, d3. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Um, I don't know who. It might have been Anand. Anand and Svidler had some games there as well. A lot of focus on the d5 square with like bishop g5 ideas.
I think you're right. It was not with the h3 move. I think actually it was on the sixth move, where they also don't play with rook e1, but simply play d3 immediately, and then after b5, bishop b3, a3, knight c3, and then perhaps even knight d5. I think this is the variation that you're aiming for.
Yeah, exactly.
Slight difference in the game. After d6, a3. Now white has played h3 and rook e1. That's probably the difference in that game, in comparison with that line.
Yeah, and I think this made I find bishop d2 so curious. it's I find a lot of moves here just very, very, very curious, and this is the critical position of the game for sure. Here it's a question of once again we see a completely closed structure, as we saw Ding Liren against Wang Hao in the first round. So these positions are either determined by piece reroutes or pawn play, and you can't really make any. Sorry.
More or less, yeah, I was concurring with you.
Yeah, yeah, because you can't. I mean, you can make random leaps forward, but you don't. Knight g5, queen h5, queen h7, queen h8 mate. But that's at the candidates probably not going to happen. Although I suppose anything can happen. Knight g5, you're just gonna get kicked out. So here, MVL finds a very nice idea, just a4, and he notices that due to the passivity of the knight on d8,
Yeah,
there's a bit of a disconnect, which is really interesting. What do a4 and d8 have to do to with each other? It's the fact that once the queen side opens, white will have an advantage there. I was kind of confused here. Here is where everything went wrong for Ding Liren. Right,
yeah. Well,
f5. What?
f5. Yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say, was this just a misevaluation of all of this? Like, did he miss how strong c4 was? Maybe.
That could very well be it, yeah. Because after c4, the problem is, of course, that if you take on c4, the white has to move bishop a4, winning the rook on e8 like this. And yeah, c4, I mean, it's a move that you can easily underestimate, because positionally it doesn't really bring anything for black. But suddenly, if you look deeper, then there's no good defense against c4. You are going to lose the pawn on b5 because, let's say, b4 is of course not possible because once again bishop a4 is coming. But let's say you play a move like rook f8, and then suddenly you still have another problem because if you take on b5, queen takes b5, now you have to move knight takes e5.
Yeah.
Which loses another pawn, with the idea, of course, that if you take, then you have d6 check, and you also win the bishop on e7 like this. So I totally think that c4 is a move that people could easily miss here, and yeah, I think that Ding might have underestimated that move. Yeah,
And it just got bad very quickly.
yeah, because black can still not take on b5 because once again the bishop a4 idea.
And I think that if you gave someone a chance to predict Black's 3 next moves here with like a big grand prize of many thousands of dollars, I don't think that they would ever do it. And I'm
No.
talking about the moves g5, king g7, king g6.
King g6. I like king g6 actually because it stops the queen from coming to h5.
Yeah, it's just so funny. I don't know, like,
Yeah,
how.
creative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, before we continue, can I make a small point actually?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this position is really bad, of course, for black. He's a pawn down. He cannot easily take this pawn back on b5. He's desperately trying to get something on the king side, but white's nicely controlling that. I think it all actually stemmed from the opening. I think bishop d2 was a very clever move here. And after knight d8, knight b5, black had to make the unpleasant choice. Is he going to play knight e6, allowing white to get the bishop pair with knight takes e7? And that this might have been the lesser of the two evils, in my opinion. But or is black going to take, and have a bad knight on d8? So I think somewhere around here the opening went wrong, and I actually suspect that Ding maybe was not fully prepared against this anti-marshal with h3 on move. What was it on move 8? So because after knight b5, I'm not. There is no white definitely has an advantage in this opening. I mean, you ideally maybe you want to play knight takes, e takes, and then c6. Actually, I kind of forgot what was the problem with this. I think white also now has the move c4, still containing the bad knight on d8, and this gives white a very nice advantage because let's say you take, and then play maybe move like d4 at some point. This is, I think the problem started here. I think that Ding maybe did not really like his position. But like you said, f5 was the critical move because after a takes, rook takes, bishop takes, c4, suddenly black's position is not just slightly worse; it's actually close to being losing.
Yeah,
So.
and after king g6, I like g4. I think it's very deliberate. You know,
Mhm.
he's acknowledging that something is coming on that side of the board, and for Ding, he's hesitant to play a move like f4. He ultimately did have to play f4, but he's hesitant since it's opening up a direct line, you know, to your king, and queen g2 is more or it's more or less forcing some sort of move of the f pawn since queen is lined up directly to the king, and if the position is opened up, then probably the only person who's going to have problems is black. But of course, this also comes with its own set of problems in the sense that the queen just gets to e4 and this gets to this gets to f3. Most of the game from here on out was as we say, like a matter of technique. It was just it was just cleanup for MVL. It was controlling counterplay, and you know he did that, and then starting out a winning initiative on the other side of the board. So he did kind of a bit of both. You know, he pressured the king side, he pressured the queen side. Here, if bishop c5 was played, I think there was d4, and then if bishop
Free, yeah.
and then this move is a fork, and you just win the g5 pawn. So
Yeah, it's terrible. No, I think MVO played this game very accurately. With even though it was still kind of messy because these pawns are pretty weird, I would say, to
Hmm.
play with. But he kept total control, and especially the knight on f7 never really had a good home base to go to. Never really had an active square. I mean, it wants to go to d6, maybe attacking a queen. But here, MVL once again kept the control with queen f5 because if after taking a knight now comes to d6, then the pawn on e5 is suddenly hanging as well actually as the pawn on d5. So I think the knight on f7 was the critical piece in this whole game, and White totally kept control over that knight throughout the game, I think.
I think the piece route of the knight was here, 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 then back again. Very tragic, honestly. It
Tragic.
never made it past its initial moving territory. It's pretty fascinating. But yes, I mean MVL with 4 pawn islands, or I don't know. I mean, do these count as pawn islands separately? In which case he has 6 pawn islands.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
I think it's simply four. I think
4.
these two
Mm.
these are counted together. Yeah.
I hear nice move knight d2 with
Mm-hmm.
nice intention to get here. It's
Oh yeah,
very and sacrificing the pawn to open the bishop.
beautiful finish. Yeah.
And then this, yeah, this move kind of shows how tragic Black's position is.
Yeah. No coordination between the pieces.
Yeah, just resigns because he's losing a piece no matter what. Very nice. Two breakthrough ideas. Anytime you have an opportunity like this to activate your bishops or your rooks. In this case, we see 2 pawns. Well, not really a sacrifice on b7 because obviously bishop a5, but just 2 pawn advancements, which just show, you activate this bishop, you activate this rook, and you activate like this. And actually, at the end, it's technically in the position where Ding resigned. He's up a pawn, but of course, it's
That's yeah.
it is.
Yeah, a very. How would you describe Ding's play so far? I mean, yeah, because he has lost. He lost this game against MVL, and he lost the previous game against Wang Hao. Yeah, how would you summarize his play so far?
Oh, that's a good unexpected.
Yeah,
I don't know. That might be the easiest answer. I don't. Yeah, I guess unexpected. I think Carlson said that he thinks Fabi is the favorite, but Ding can win it if he beats Fabi in their head-to-head encounters. And there goes Ding, surviving brutal home preparation in round 3 and beating Fabi. Imagine if Ding had not gone 0-2 in his first few games. He was 1.5. He would be 2.5 out of 3. He just beat Fabi. He's top of the world, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
what
So
we.
yeah, you're absolutely true there. Yeah, and that's you made a nice bridge towards the next game, of course, which is of course Ding versus Fabi. Yeah, Ding bounced back in round 3, defeating his the number 1 seed more or less in this whole candidates tournament, Fabiano Caruana, who was then on 1.5 out of 2. He beat Alekseenko as we saw in the previous game. So yeah, he was more or less going very smoothly throughout the tournament. Just an easy draw in round 1, and a nice victory in round 2. But suddenly he had to play against Ding, and I'm wondering actually, did Caruana, because Ding had 0 out of 2? Do you think that Ding actually got a target on his back as well?
I think yeah, I've heard grandmasters talk about this for sure. It's in the first few rounds you can tell like who's not on form and who is.
Hmm.
And yeah, definitely. I mean, if you see folks struggling, I mean, by default, Alekseenko's got the target. I don't know how some of the players feel about each other. As Grishuk said in his interview, it used to be no political correctness, but you could say anything. People used to say, "I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to squash him like a bug." Now everybody is very respectful. So I don't know how the players feel about each other, but definitely after the first few rounds, you see Ding is playing 0-2, then you go, maybe there's something there. But then you see him beat Fabi, and that's a message going into the first rest day.
Yeah.
I'm still dangerous. One more win, I'm right back in it. You know, I'm definitely not to be counted out. It's a 14-round tournament, so you can't make any huge predictions within the first few rounds.
No,
One question I'll ask you after we analyze this game, we give like 15-20 minutes to this game, we'll talk about round 4. I'm going to ask you a question kind of leading into the rest of the tournament. But yeah, Fabi definitely had to play for something in this game. I was really surprised by the Slav, the open Slav.
me too. Yeah.
Has Fabi ever played the open Slav?
I don't know, to be honest. I do think that the Slav, yeah, you don't see the Slav very often anymore on high level. I would say I think it had a nice spark when Viswanathan Anand defeated Kramnik. I'm not. I think was that in the first or in their second World Championship match? I'm not so sure. Anyways, Anand was the one who popularized the semi-Slav at some point, and yeah, but after that, I don't think it has been played that often on high level chess. So to see the Slav, and this is actually a bit yeah, awkward because I was just about to make a Slav repertoire for myself. But now that I know that everybody's going to check the Slav since Fabiano Caruana is going to play it, then I might refrain from making such a repertoire.
Well, you know, you can always play just maybe.
Different, you know?
Well, what I expected at the highest level is semi-Slav.
Yeah.
I think semi-Slav is, you know, with all this Botvinnik and computer preparation and Miran and all these systems, like semi-Slav is still a very, very legitimate weapon.
Yes.
But Bishop F5.
Actually, let me correct myself there. I think the semi-Slav was the opening that Anand popularized when he was playing his match against Kramnik.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, takes c4 is a different line from that match. Yeah.
But after knight e5, the main line is this knight d7 thing, where you then, you know, I think this is called the central variation when you play knight e5, and then yeah, white likes to expand with f3 e4. So theory here was, I mean, this just looks completely insane. I mean, this king f2, but it's actually legitimate. This is not, you know, this is not trolling or anything like that. It's not some sort of modified Bong Cloud, as everybody likes to joke about, but it's a very legitimate weapon. e6 on move 6 was not the main line. Like I said, knight d7 was. But after f3, bishop b4, it's all normal. And then actually bishop b4, there is this 3 pawns for a piece line, you know, where you play e4 and then black does this with a lot of chaos. But knight c4 and just castles is also good. And actually, if you check the database, white is scoring quite well. After king f2, the percent win rate out of 130 games is 71.5% for white.
Oh wow, that's a lot. Yeah.
And you know, you need to really like, well, c5 is 70 games, and then bishop g6 is 50 games, and then after that there's absolutely no games basically played at all. So Shankland has played this with black. We've seen Melkumyan, Havhannisyan, a lot of Armenian players. So white is crushing here. White wins a lot. And, you know, the main move that gets played is c5, e4. And Fabi busts out e5. Just a move that's never, ever been played, ever.
Yeah, it's a novelty. Yeah. Many people were, of course, surprised by such a move, but I don't know. This reminds me of a lot of Grunfeld variations where you also sacrifice 2 pawns, or yeah, in this case only 1, but I think a second pawn will be coming shortly. In any case, where you open up the position after a move like king f2, the king is very exposed on f2. White has still not a lot of development yet. So, and e5, there are already a few drawbacks, because if you take with the pawn, then suddenly you have got a diagonal to take into account, and if you take with the knight, then suddenly. I don't know. Things are looking a bit less stable after taking like that. So I don't know. It's a typical move it's a move that you don't really consider behind the board. Yeah, it's
no,
really
absolutely.
that you have to prepare.
Yeah, he was probably sitting there doing some work and went, "What about this move?" And then for the next 3 hours, he analyzed with a computer. and he ultimately decided that it's worth a shot. There's a lot of pitfalls, and you know, the player playing with the white pieces. Oh, I do apologize. We are not looking at this game anymore. We're looking at Caruana. Thank you. He decided that it was worth it. Now, what I find so funny is that if you go to the online base, so ChessBase has this like online base thing where, you know, it shows the amount of times the position was visited, right, by people. So after e5, the position has been visited 15,000 times. People have begun doing.
Yeah, of course. It's such a spectacular move, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an amazing move. I mean, Fabi's follow-up with bishop c2 is incredible. Very chaotic. Obviously, you have to play queen d2, because if you go here, then queen d4.
And you win the knight on e5.
Yep, exactly. c5, a lot of absolute chaos here with the blowing open of the position. I remember here the debate of the engine between d5 and e3.
Okay.
Engine was trying to figure out which move is better. Ding obviously advancing a pawn here can't be bad. And now bishop b3 e4. It already is, like, optically speaking, I'm very hesitant to give this support, because it just seems like white is so happy here, doesn't it?
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't know. I know it's crazy, but look at this. It's just.
I was thinking the opposite, actually.
Really? Okay.
Because Black's development is so strong. I mean, he has already got a rook over the e file. I mean, there must be sacrifices coming at some point. At some point, Black is going to take on d5 and mate on e1, because the queen's protected like that. I was really thinking that this was looking very, very like any standard Grunfeld opening. Like, Black is going to break through at some point. That was my first thought when I was seeing this position. I was thinking, like, okay, Caruana's taking some risks today because Ding is on 0 out of 2. That is what I was thinking, actually.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. I was very happily just saying, well, I'm gonna stabilize the position and I'm gonna be happy. And we did see Fabiano. I mean, this is such a ridiculous looking position. Like, right here, Black is down 2 pawns. He's got 2 bishops doing God knows what. You know, eyeballing pieces that are completely protected. Yes, it is true that white is not castled, and white does have 4 light squared pawns, so if you just get this dark squared bishop out of the way, maybe you've got some opportunity to create chaos, but he never got that opportunity. I mean, I would love to have a conversation with Fabiano. You know, did Ding just play every engine move through the entire preparation? Is that what happened? Or did Ding go wrong at some moment, but Fabi didn't remember, you know, the best move, or what? Like, what happened? You're never gonna get an answer, right? You won't, because
then you would be asking for their preparation knowledge, more or less, and that's something that they cannot give, of course. They've put hours and hours into analysis on this, and it would be worth a few $1,000, I would say, to get your hands on his preparation or something. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, the question, of course, that we're asking here is like, where did Fabi's preparation stop? What was still known to him? Do you have an answer to that? Maybe what was the first point where he actually started thinking?
Let's actually right here. When he played the move order mix-up between knight g6 and rook c8, I think that's what folks in the chat are pointing out as well. Here, the best move order is rook c8 immediately, knight e3, knight g6, queen f5, bishop. No, sorry. Yes, bishop c5 here, I think. But I'm also, I think it transposed, but I don't. I don't quite remember. I think it was here, because if you play knight g6, which is what happened in the game, and then this, then here Fabi took immediately, because if you play rook c8, I don't know. I think I think it was a move order mix up, but then it transposed anyway. Or maybe Fabi. Oh, I think Fabi was not supposed to take on c4. He should have played rook c8. But it's very different when you're sitting at home, maybe playing against your training partner, and going through the computer lines and sitting on the board and going, oh god,
Yeah, of course.
you don't have the answers. So, he decided that this was the way to play, and this just wasn't. This is not what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to keep the bishop here, pressuring, and just play rook c8. And but even this position, which looks okay for black, apparently here he made the fatal error h6. He was supposed to play rook e5.
That was also my point. Yeah, I think that h5 h6 was maybe okay. I think Ding played brilliantly actually after that. He made some rook maneuver that was really nice, and that I would not ever have considered over the board. But yeah, h6 was a critical waste of tempo. He should have kept the initiative going with rook e5. And now after I think a move like queen h3. You simply play queen b4, if I'm correct, and you start heating up, putting some more pressure on the position, also with moves like knight f4 incoming at some point. I think that was critical in this position. And after move h6, you lost a critical tempi once again, and now white found a very nice maneuver to stabilize, actually.
Yeah, rook d1, rook d1, rook d2, rook c2. I'm just so confused because the whole nature of a gambit is to, like, this is not a crazy move, And in fact, you might say, well, my rook is not standing very well here. I would love to know in depth what exactly Fabiano just misunderstood in the position, Like maybe here he just thought that, okay, I have no more initiative, and he didn't want to go for something like this because this just looks a little ridiculous. But it very well may have been the right thing, and then, bring the second rook, maybe f5 to try to target the center, g5, I don't know, just to lock in the pieces, because you get to a point where you're worried about this kicking you out.
Yeah.
Which is, what can you... Oh, and yeah, some... rook e5 instead of taking c5 right away is the way to go. But I guess it'll transpose, won't it?
I think it will transpose, yeah, unless there's something brilliant.
Okay, and you go here?
There you go, knight f4. Oh my god.
What, like this? Repetition.
Oh.
No, queen g3, no draw.
Yeah, no draw, exactly, yeah.
Okay, but no, this is like... Yeah, but he didn't... he played this h6 move. It's the second time Fabi's played a random h-pawn move. You remember... in his match against Magnus, the famous move h3, which caused Hikaru to grimace at the screen. When it was a big moment, Fabi was pressuring Magnus's Sicilian, and he could have made a bunch of different attacking moves. He thought for like 20 minutes, and he played h3, and all the advantage went away. I think it might actually be the most viewed clip on the Twitch chess channel, is when
look at that.
is when Fabi... Yeah, Hikaru reaction to h3, 209,000 views. So... yeah, so h6 is again the problem, and here just this nice little maneuver, rook c2, and
this is really brilliant. That you can see that you can play rook d1, rook d2, rook c2, and you're stabilized. I mean, this is high quality stuff from Ding. I mean, would you ever consider playing like this, Levy?
Yeah, of course. I mean, they should have just subbed me in for Ding Liren.
I should have known you were gonna say that. Yeah.
Really, you could come to a maneuver like this by process of elimination, just by simply saying I can't really move any other pieces. But the only backup to rook d1, rook d2 would be, can I stabilize my king? Can I play like this?
Yeah, exactly. A move like g3 is the first thing that comes to mind, right?
Yeah, not rook d1, rook d2, rook c2. Definitely not.
Yeah.
But
it's a beautiful maneuver, I would say. Yeah.
Very, very high class little thing here. And then it's so funny, like a6, h6. You're down 2 pawns. You think you have to push the initiative, but actually a6 is the best move, restricting the movement of white's pieces.
Well, I think his point is to play b5, right, and try to break open the position,
Mm-hmm.
more or less, because
Yep.
he has to act fast. If he's not going to act fast, then White's going to stabilize with moves like this, and then rook d1 perhaps. So he has to do something quickly.
I found Ding's move here hilarious. Just the fact that it's actually, and it's actually, I think, one of the best moves, just queen h3. Like,
Yeah.
initiative is coming on the other side of the board, but you have enough time to actually do something like this. Amazing. Like, you can just ignore the initiative in its entirety and create like a little defensive fortress with all your pieces, giving away the a4 pawn.
If I can, can we go a few moves back actually?
Yep.
After b4, knight d1, queen b3, rook d. Actually, in this position, usually in such positions, you can actually take on d5, and you can open up the e file, and you can somehow get very nice counterplay. But because of the rook on c2, that is never possible. So queen b3, rook d2. You cannot really take on d5 because the rook is protecting everything nicely, especially the bishop on e2. And also probably rook takes d5 would have been okay. Sacrifices like rook takes e4 also don't work, because if you take like this, then you actually have to take this into account. So usually sacrifices in the center are the way to go in these type of positions. But I think that this maneuver with rook d2, that is why I'm stressing it so much, is preventing all of that. If it wasn't for that, then black could have probably broken through somewhere. But yeah, that is why. And so, okay, black won a pawn back of queen takes a4, but yeah, this now you're going to see the power of the center in this position. I mean,
Oh yeah,
knights
queen
are
f2.
restricted, and
It's been 30 moves. This is White's 30th move, and I think he's moved his queen like 8 or 9 times. Might be 1/3 of the moves.
mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7. But just so interesting that. And how about Black's queen, huh? Just dancing around the board. I mean, when they're back all around like b3, a4, d7, h3, it's like a world tour. And now we see Fabiano going for a queenside counterplay. But yeah, like you said, Ding just played so well. He found all the right squares at all the right moments for his pieces, it feels like.
Yeah.
And f4, forcing this sacrifice, because if you just go back, you will be overwhelmed.
Yeah,
So.
after f4, I think that was more or less over, because, yeah, usually you want to get such a position, but then from the black side, you want to at least have an extra pawn. If there was a pawn on d6, then probably maybe was okay. Still unpleasant, I would say, but maybe black can hold. But yeah, after f4, it should be over. Knight takes f4 is a typical sacrifice that Fabi had to go for this, otherwise he would be overwhelmed, as you said. And after g takes, knight takes, king f1. With rook g1 coming, it was clear that black did not have enough compensation for the 2 pawns in this case. So I thought it was a very, very nice defensive game from Ding. A very, very high quality game once again. So I'm really curious to see how Ding is going to do in the next few rounds. I hope he bounces back, and then comes also the question, like, why did Ding play the way? Why did Ding play the way he did in the first 2 rounds?
Yeah. Very strange, small decision making, which was just inaccurate, right? Like, we're just not used to seeing such inaccuracy. Whereas this game, I mean, he'd be reported for cheating on Chess.com. Like, he literally played perfectly, basically.
I would say so, yeah.
Like, just a really. I have a student who's about like 1200, and I made him play this position against me. He had white, I had black, and he lost it in 2 moves. He played rook f6. He actually found rook f6, and then he blundered rook c1. And I was like, "Yay, I won!" So it's not a super easy position to handle if you're not Ding Liren, but
Yeah.
Obviously, he did it very easily. Just stabilized on both sides and just didn't. Now, I have a question for you. I know you're going to answer this very peacefully. Do you think Fabi played on for too long?
Well, maybe, yeah, but maybe I don't know. These top grandmasters always have their reasons, right? And this is the candidates tournament, the biggest tournament in the world besides the World Championship match, of course. So you cannot blame them for playing on a little bit longer.
Right. Yeah. Just I mean, what are you gonna do, right? You can't even leave the house, like, or the hotel. Grishuk said that on his rest days, he usually likes. Did you see that? Did
He was
you?
bored. He was just bored. Let's play a few more moves. Come on, we've got the time. Otherwise, we have to go back to the hotel. Nothing to do there.
Yeah, if Fabiano wasn't hungry or sleepy, you can't. Yeah, exactly. I see a great point in the chat. You can't win if you resign. So, there is a chance that Ding goes wrong somewhere. Maybe you get under Ding's skin, and for the next game, you're gonna be able to make a comeback with White. I don't know. Obviously, I have no idea.
Sometimes they also try to recover mentally. They're angry at themselves for playing the way they did. I'm not sure that Caruana is that type of person, but that's also sometimes a reason just to mentally, stay calm for the interviews later, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. You just gather your thoughts. But Grishuk said, like, on his rest day, he likes to go to the theater. He likes to go to museums, just to decompress. And he was like, well, now I'm not allowed even to leave my hotel, so it's just bad luck. I'm gonna be, it's gonna be a problem for me. It's gonna be bad luck. So, or he'll play some Chess.com Blitz. He's been playing in the Blitz pool in preparation for the candidates, which I found funny. Let's just
Okay.
before we sign off, to talk about what's happening in round number 4. Here are our matchups coming up tomorrow. As always, guys, 7 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be noon Central European time, and 4 a.m. in the Pacific if you're gonna wake up for it. Wang Hao versus Alekseenko, rematch of Grand Swiss, and probably the matchup of the two previously thought underdogs in this event. How do you see this one playing out? Your predictions?
That's a tough one. We're talking about Wang Hao versus Alekseenko, I think, right?
Yep.
Well, I think Wang Hao is going to try and push this, and I think that Wang Hao is in really good shape. I think that Alekseenko is going to be under a lot of heavy pressure again, because as we've mentioned a few times already, I think Alekseenko definitely has a target on its back. Because of the lower rating, although, yeah, 2,700 is definitely respectable. What am I saying? It's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah. Anyway, I think that Wang Hao is going to try and win that one. I think that he's if there's someone to beat in the tournament, then it's probably Alekseenko at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Our second matchup is going to be, well, not second, all these games are happening at the same time, but MVL with White versus Grishuk. Obviously, these guys have a ton of experience playing each other. Grishuk, a seasoned grizzly veteran, currently #1 in Russia, I think, by 1 point. Maybe I'm wrong, or 1 or 2 rating points, obviously. 36, greatest interview in chess, and it's not even close. What are we going to get? What do you think the opening is going to be? MVL's going to start with e4. I mean, he doesn't ever start with anything besides e4. What is Grisha going to play? We're going to have a Spanish? What are we going to have?
I think Grishuk is going to get some Sicilian on the board, some very nice, dynamically unbalanced positions we're going to get. I think that will be the match of the day tomorrow. I think that will be a very exciting game to watch. Yeah, and I actually think. Do you think MVL had the least amount of preparation time out of everybody, of course, because of the late. Is laced because of the retreatment of Ratchabov from this tournament. But yeah, he's one of the current leaders.
Yeah.
With the lowest preparation out of everybody, he has 2 out of 3 together with, if I'm not mistaken, Nepomniachtchi and Wang Hao.
And Fabi.
No, Fabi lost, so he has 1.5.
Oh, yo, you're right. You're right. He didn't win 2 games. You're right. 1.5. Sorry, I'm an American. I just I just pushed my guy.
Oh, you're so prejudiced, aren't you? No, all joking aside, I think that MVL has a good is going to play for a win tomorrow as well. I think if I don't know, Grishuk is playing very solidly and very decent like he always does, of course. Great player, but I think MVL is in really good shape.
Yeah,
So
I think so too. So far, we've seen great stuff from him. If you obviously it's only been 3 games, so talking about big picture, 3 games out of 14 is tricky. But we have not seen Grishuk in any form of danger at all, right? I mean, we've not seen. I don't believe so.
true. No, Kishik is playing very, very decent and very, very okay. Yeah, so a draw is definitely also on the table. Do you think Grishuk might maybe play for a win tomorrow from the Black Pieces, or?
I don't know. Very, very tough to tell. I think these guys, they just play, right? Like, I mean, I think you sit down and you just go, okay, I'm gonna play my stuff, and I'm playing
Mhm.
black. I'm probably okay with the draw. I, excuse me. I'm not even positive Grishuk buys into the theory of, I'm happy with a draw, white or black. I honestly, I feel like Grishuk's the kind of guy that's a little bit more old school. He just loves chess. Like, he just.
Mm.
He's just gonna go out and try to play, his best every single game. He's gonna get into time trouble, but the game is gonna be interesting, exciting, unbalanced, and we'll see whether one of the players dibs below the level that they've been playing at thus far, or not.
So hard to predict all of this, of course,
Of course,
but
yeah, like the opening. I mean, these guys play everything. What do you see happening in the matchup between? Well, this matchup is interesting for me. Ding Liren and Anish Giri, right? Anish Giri is the guy who was talking so much on social media and interviews going forward, like how much work he's putting in. We've seen his preparation not
Mhm.
necessarily pay off, but we've seen his preparation on full display. And then Ding Liren, who's had 3 decisive games in the first 3 rounds, which is not what I would have expected from somebody like him. Maybe 2 wins and a draw, or definitely not 2 losses.
Yeah.
Does Ding continue his run? Does Ding win with white against Giri and send Giri to a very sobering 1 out of 4? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, as you said, Ding is a very, I would also not have imagined that Ding was going to have 3 decisive result. He's very well known for his decent play, correct play. He had a streak of over 100, non-lost games. So he's a very solid player. So having like 3 decisive results is very unexpected, of course. But yeah, against Anish, I really don't like how Anish is playing. It's unfortunate for me. He's of course a countryman of mine. I really hope that he's going to do well, but I think he's the most shaky out of everyone. I think. Well, I mean, you have Alekseenko, of course, who had not the best game against Caruana as we saw in round
Mm-hmm.
two. But Anisha's also not really shown great form at the moment. So I'm actually thinking, since Ding has played a wonderful game against Caruana in round three, that Anisha's going to really struggle here. I think that Ding is going to turn up the heat against Anish, and that Anish is going to be under heavy pressure.
I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you a bit of a leading question. I kind of know the answer. Based on Ding's tournament thus far, with the 2 losses, the huge win versus Fabi. I mean, he beats the number one seed, number 2 in the world,
Yeah.
former world championship contender.
Mhm.
Is Anish Giri with the black pieces the best matchup for Ding Liren that he could have gotten besides Alekseenko? If he was white against Alekseenko, is this the best guy to play right now?
You mean to keep his streak
Yes,
going?
yes, to get back into the standings.
Tough one. I think so. At this point, yeah, of course, not to discredit Anish. Of course,
Yes,
he's a
yeah.
great player, and he obviously is anybody in the top level chess doesn't really want to play Anish if he doesn't have to, of course. But in this case, Anish hasn't shown the best form, and I think that besides, as you said, Alekseenko, it is the best drawing matchup for him today to keep his streak going. Yeah,
That's
I
fair.
believe
Fair. And that leaves us with our last matchup of the day, which to me is also not of the day, of the round tomorrow, and that's the matchup between Fabiano Caruana and probably the worst possible headshot they could have chosen for Ian Nepomniachtchi, who looks like he hasn't slept in days and quite frankly went on a bit of a bender. Yeah, guys, seriously? Like, it looks like he just went to like an electronic dance festival and didn't sleep for 3 days and was using substances. I mean, seriously. Fabi just looks pristine. Fabi looks like he belongs in a museum, you know, like he's a sculpture. you, you guys really made Nepo look like a freaking, you know, come on. Okay. Yeah, anyway, I don't pick the images, but wow. Seriously, you know, and I love how in the Dropbox of images, I'm not firing shots at Nepo, I'm firing shots at the Chess.com graphics team. I mean, seriously, friends. This one will also be fun. You know, Fabi, curious if Fabi starts out with e4, d4, you know, because if he gets d4, he'll probably get a Grunfeld, knowing Nepo. But if he plays e4, well, will Nepo play another French? Probably not.
I don't think so, no. I think the French was meant for Alekseenko and Alekseenko only, yeah. But I don't, yeah, it's a tough question. I think Nepo is also in really great shape at the moment. His technique against Anish in round one was very nice to see, very good. I think he has a. I think it's going. Well, okay. Let's think results. Yeah, I think Nepo is going to be a draw. Yeah, I think Nepo is going to make a draw against Caruana, who of course also has to mentally recover from his loss against Ding. So maybe I think a draw would be okay. I think that's yeah. I'm gonna. If I had to put money on it, I would predict a draw. Yeah. What do you think?
I think Fabi wins.
Okay. Yeah.
I just got to be different. You know, you said draw, so I say Fabi wins. We will be. I mean, that was kind of the final talking point of the day, guys. Is remember the full schedule of things is 7 a.m. Eastern, 12 Central European time. And 4 on Pacific. I honestly cannot recall what that is in Yekaterinburg, but I think it's 3 p.m. local time. I don't know who the commentators will be, but probably we'll get Naroditsky. We're gonna get Vichy, Hikaru, maybe Wesley will be in for round 4, and probably Hess will be back. Catch all that action here tomorrow. Before we sign off and raid WFM from Georgia, Lile Koridze, I have a question for you, sir. So someone asked me this in my chat yesterday. I'm going to put you on the spot. But I need something spicy, okay?
Sure.
What is your hottest take of the tournament thus far?
The hottest take?
Yeah, you know, you got 3 games to work with. What's your hottest take so far?
The hottest take. You mean the most memorable moment?
No. Hottest take, like, you have to make an argument. You have to make a point. It can be spicy just based on these 3 rounds. Like, just give me something.
Like
I'll give you an example.
Okay. I think it was good that the tournament wasn't cancelled due to the coronavirus. I think we have a great tournament so far. Things are heating up, and I definitely like how yeah, I think how players are simply playing in this tournament. I mean, okay, that wasn't probably as spicy as you wanted, but what do you think?
No, that's pretty spicy. I mean, that's a pretty hot take. I would say you're in the minority there. I think maybe 30% of people. I did like a whole Twitter poll, and you know, Twitter poll is obviously indicative of real life. So a lot of people thought that the tournament should have been canceled. There was this image circulating of the opening ceremony. No players are there, but you know, Hoi Fan is sitting there in the mask. She's doing all her commentary and interviews in a mask. My hot take yesterday, somebody asked me this on stream. They laughed at my answer. They said, "What's your hot take so far?" I said, "Anish Giri will never be a contender." You know, that's a controversial opinion. And then somebody in my chat said, "We asked for a hot take. We didn't ask for facts." And I was like, "Wow." That was but okay, you know, you need to make a take. And who knows, on our next rest day recap, we're gonna have completely different takes. Anish Giri is gonna win 3 straight games. I'm gonna look like an idiot, and then and
I hope so, of course.
so
Yeah, not that you look like an idiot then, but because Anish is doing well. Yeah.
yeah, he's doing well, and then maybe Ding Liren's gonna lose 2 more games. Who knows? I mean, so much stuff awaits us, but you guys are again, these are just because we're prompted for these things, my friends. So we'll be signing off here, sending the raid over to Miss Koridze, and action continues tomorrow with your favorite or least favorite commentators. I think there's a host command. You guys like the show? Roeland and I also do have our own personal channels, and till the next rest day recap, guys. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.